Pop Out concert was a triumphant moment for West Coast rap. The exclusion of the game speaks volumes for how far he's fallen in the eyes of his peers and his mentor, Dr. Dre. Judging Game on his antics over the last few years, you could be forgiven for forgetting just how pivotal he was to West Coast rap in the post-Death Row era, because back in 2005, the Game almost single-handedly resurrected the coast. 5 times platinum, critically acclaimed, and Grammy-nominated, the Game's debut album, The Documentary, is undoubtedly one of the best hip-hop albums of all time. Essentially, if the mission was to bring LA rap back to the forefront, it was a flawless victory. But things went wrong, very wrong. And today, it seems the Game is a rapper Dr. Dre would rather erase from his legacy. So how does a rapper who was capable of so much musically and culturally end up snubbed and shunned by the man who gave him a shot and launched his career? Let's find out. Signed in 2003 to a joint venture with Interscope and Aftermath, Dr. Dre basically equipped the Game with every tool to succeed. With a co-sign from Dre, a star-studded feature lineup, and a brief but impactful alliance with 50 Cent and G-Unit, which was actually orchestrated by Dre and Jimmy Iovine, the Game's debut album, The Documentary, was destined to be a success, and that's exactly what it went on to become. With the success of The Documentary and 50 Cent becoming the most profitable artists in the game at the time, it seemed like Dre's new stable of artists were ready to take over the industry together. But Game's relationship with 50 took a turn, and after a very public beef, Game's departure from G-Unit would put the first major strain on his relationship with Dre. And with so many millions of dollars at stake, Dre had to make a business decision that pretty much sabotaged his work with the Game.
Financially and infrastructurally, he had to take sides with who Jimmy took sides with, which was 50.
And that's why, like, one of the 48 laws of power is don't outshine the master. Right? Don't get too big for your britches. Don't, jump the gun. You know what I mean? And I ain't gonna lie, like when I remember when 50 in the Game got into it, him being from the West Coast, I was rooting for the Game. I fucked with 50 though at the same time, but I was rooting for the Game. But I also knew that the type of nigga 50 is, like, it's gonna be a challenge for the Game to kind of like overcome. You feel me? What comes with beefing with certain people in the industry.
It made sense because that's where the bulk of the money was being made. And so at that point, you didn't want to 50 off because he was the breadwinner. Everybody chose sides, but I did the doctor's advocate. No one thought it was coming out. They thought I was done until one night in New York when I recorded One Blood. And I went to Funk Flex, and I went to Clue, and I went to K-Slay, Angie, and I went to every club, linked up with Jim. He took me to Harlem. We dropped it off in every club. I walked in every club. I bought bottles in every club, and I made One Blood crush. So by the time I got back to the West Coast, they were begging me to finish the album. And that's where me and 50's relationship really went left, because he didn't like the support that I was getting from the building.
Proving that he could stand on his own 2 feet with 2006's The Doctor's Advocate, which was released just a year after his debut, the Game did the near impossible by proving to the world that he could still deliver a stellar album without either Dre's guiding hand or 50 essentially handing him a whole host of hooks on some of the biggest records on the documentary. But behind the scenes, it turns out Dre and the Game still had a healthy relationship, because by the time 2011's The Red Album released, Game revealed that Dre was still giving him vital feedback.
Just because Dre wasn't on the production side of my second and third album doesn't mean that I didn't talk to Dre. Me and Dre had the same relationship. Dre always told me, no matter what happens, no matter what is said in the media, me and you are always going to be the same as we were the last time we had an in-person conversation.
Right, because I think in 2010 you posted a picture where you're wearing a bunch of Aftermath chains, and you say it's funny how things come full circle. Didn't you say you're going back to Aftermath at that point?
No, it was basically, that was my ode to Dre, just saying that, like, I'm always going to be Aftermath no matter what.
And for years, this was the Game's outlook when it came to Dr. Dre. No matter how long he went without being officially signed to him, Game maintained an unwavering loyalty to Dre in a way that he's never really exhibited to anybody. And even if he admitted that there were some tense moments, the gratitude overshadowed it.
Sometimes Dre me off, man. And sometimes I Dre off. But that's one of them things. Dre told me a long time ago, me and you are always going to be the way that we left off. Whatever happens in between, all of that. I got nothing but love for Dre, man. Everything that he did for me, I'm very appreciative.
And it be like that sometimes, like with your close peoples, that it's kind of like it be the relationship might be rocky or whatever have you. It can be like that where, distance can create even more of a rift in the relationship, right? You already had y'all spats, but then when y'all come, like, just when you see them, it's like all the shit, it be like it can disappear. just because of the love, like, you know, and the energy and the bond that y'all got when you see a motherfucker that, you know, it be like that. It was a trip. That game wasn't up there, and I think it would have been, you know, I think he was missed for sure. And it's like a lot of, I ain't gonna lie, the game, you know,
At times, he even flexed that he could get him on the phone at a moment's notice during interviews. But these days, that call would likely ring out, and that's because the game has systematically ruined his ties with the Doc and the whole Aftermath family. And what's more, this could have all been avoided if he wasn't so controlled by emotion in an industry that requires strategy and thought. So when he only briefly appeared on one track from Dre's Compton LP, some fans did find this a tad bit strange. However, when it was announced that Dre would oversee the Super Bowl halftime show in 2022, it was expected that he'd play a career-spanning set which featured many of the artists he'd mentored. On the big night, he brought out Snoop, Eminem, Anderson .Paak, Kendrick Lamar, and a slightly chubby 50 Cent. Meanwhile, the Game was left on the sidelines in his own city. To begin with, Game kept it civil and acted like it didn't faze him at all. I ain't had no conversations with nobody regarding Jay-Z and the Super Bowl halftime show he put together. He wrote on IG, "I don't feel no way about not being included. It was a great show featuring iconic artists. It was a win for the culture." And in other interviews, he seemed to try to shift the blame to Jay as opposed to Dre.
You gotta look at the Super Bowl, right? Hov put it together, and so he picked the artist that he thought was fit for the Super Bowl that he was in charge of putting together, right?
But with everything we know about Game's mindset, it seemed like only a matter of time until it all spilled out. And finally, he admitted that it got to him.
Snoop is an icon. Dre is an icon. M is an icon, but M is not from LA. 50 is not from LA, and I'm not taking away from the fact.
He got a point. He got a point. What is going on? That's why I know I was, you know, before I unpaused it the last time, I was gonna say, okay, the Game, he got some tactics, right? And he got antics, and he done things, right? I can't really remember right now, but I know it's a lot that he done as far as like to make, you know, to put a distaste in certain people's mouth, right? But he got a point. What's going on to where the Game, right, and the things he didn't contributed to the Game and his accolades, like, why wasn't he involved in certain things, you know? And maybe, you know, in the comment section, let me know, refresh my memory, you know?
Fact that they were on the Super Bowl, but LA have been on a Detroit Super Bowl or a New York Super Bowl. It just wouldn't have happened. LA, all around the Super Bowl, and I don't get the call.
From that moment on, a switch was flicked, and the floodgates were now open for the Game to finally cross the line that he'd never had before, and that was to discredit Dr. Dre. Suddenly, the rapper who had previously written a heartfelt tribute to Dre on his second album was now downplaying Dre's impact on his career and life as if it were nothing.
Dre didn't do any beats on the documentary, but I didn't say he didn't oversee it. You want Dre to oversee anything because he's a mastermind when it comes to that. But as far as like doing a beat for the documentary, no. And I've never had a Dre beat in my career. I've never had a song with Dre on it and Dre been in my video. Snoop has a ton. M has a ton. I don't have none.
Soon, he was claiming that Kanye West, a man who Game had openly beefed with over writing explicit lyrics about Ye's then-wife, Kim Kardashian, had done more for his career than Dre ever did.
It's crazy that Ye did more for me in the last 2 weeks than Dre did for me my whole career.
Naturally,
Now that, see, I don't understand why he said that, but that rubbed me the wrong way. You know, I'm like, so you telling me, and because it came across as like, you know, we in this clout era, you know, Kanye clouted up, so it came across to me like the influx of clout you got from being associated with Ye did more than the mentorship and all this, that, and the third from Dre.
the world collectively eye-rolled at this comment, while those who were there firsthand at Aftermath made sure to tell everybody he was out of pocket.
When you see Game say, yo, Dre never did nothing for me. I remember Dre being in the studio and giving you them hits, bro.
Suddenly doing to Dre what he'd done to so many others before, Game had now disparaged the man who signed him in front of the whole world. And with that, he had come to terms with the fact that one drunken rant cost him his most valued connection in hip-hop. And now he's tried to walk it back while trying to save face at the same time.
So basically, I was a little inebriated, and I said some things that I meant. I'm not gonna take it back. I ain't no sucker. But having Dre do anything for your project, anything in your career, touch any part of anything that you're doing in life is such a blessing that I shall not ever on that again. And I haven't talked to Dre since. It don't really matter if we talk again in life. Like, I'm a stand-up, Compton, LA, and it is what it is. It's just that I should have gave him more grace with what he actually did do, and that was mentor me and do things that nobody else could have done for me in my career. When I was talking on there, I was speaking in terms of what Ye was doing right at that moment, which was life-changing for me. And then I based it on Dre's lack thereof because I took the business part personal, and I should have left it business. But Dre is Dre, bro. We all know what Dr. Dre do.
In the aftermath of the Super Bowl snub, Game has clearly internalized a lot of animosity towards Dre, and now he's using it as a lens to explain some of his actions, like saying his diss towards Eminem was just another way to get back at Dre.
Throwing shots at Eminem and beefing with Eminem, it was just me being upset with Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre can't out-rap me, so I just went at him, just because that's just how I get sometimes.
If this was an isolated incident, then perhaps Dre would be able to let it go.
And, you know, so I can understand the Game kind of like, it's always tricky, right, when it's your peoples and y'all doing business. Or y'all the relationship then became, you know, it's getting kind of blurry because y'all done got tight, but it initially was business. And you know, I ain't gonna lie, like I can understand the Game being a little frustrated or whatever have you, and wanting to take his frustrations out somewhere. Really, more so, it felt like he was hurt. You know, hurt people hurt people.
But in actual fact, it's part of a larger pattern of behavior, which has defined and ultimately destroyed Dre's respect for the Game. Because just like he went at M as a proxy for Dre, Game has also sought to undermine Kendrick in ways that land somewhere between jealousy and anger over how he feels Dre has overlooked him. Saluted on Black Boy Fly by Kendrick as a rapper he'd always looked up to, Game was there when the torch was passed to K-Dot by Snoop. Over the years, Kendrick collaborated with the Game on several tracks, and by all accounts, it looked like these two West Coast artists were on good terms. But what was notable is that at every turn, whether in the spirit of competitiveness or jealousy, it's as though the Game has tried to downplay Kendrick's skills.
Can't nobody in Compton out-rap Game. Kendrick do it. I love that to death. I flew past Kendrick when that was on foot in a Range Rover and showed him how to do it. Don't play with Game name. Hardest in Compton, rapping, lyricist, me.
Once again, the Game has let liquor do the talking and fostered a potential problem with a fellow protege of Dre. And while this may have potentially contributed to Dre's gradual distancing from the Game.
So now I see why he wasn't there, right? And now that I think about it, remember he did that shit with Drake? Remember we did the little reaction? We was watching some of the shit. The reasons why Game might have not been invited is coming back to me now. All of us, and it's like, for you to say you rolled past a nigga in a what? Nah, I ain't feeling that. You know what I'm saying? See, that quick, that's how shit get. And it's wow, okay.
Game, what really didn't help his case was refusing to stand by the West Coast when it came to the Kendrick and Drake beef. While Dre was out there providing the intro to Not Like Us, the Game actively took Drake's side. This isn't anything new though, because previously, the Game sat on the fence and claimed that Drake didn't take shots at Kendrick on their collab track 100.
Yeah, I didn't feel like that, and if I did, I wouldn't put a song out. Like I said, Kendrick's my brother. I love him too. But if Drake was subliminal and slid,
yeah, he's slick with that.
Again, yeah, like he one of the best that ever do it. So it's hip hop.
Now, no one is saying that the Game can't openly support Drake, but with subliminal shots this obvious, it does raise some eyebrows. But things go further, as recently the Game basically initiated himself into Drizzy's OVO camp when at the height of the K-Dot beef, he took to IG and played Drake's Enemy from 2015 alongside the caption, "Too many fake rappers I gotta pretend I like." Later, he admitted that it came down to the fact that he saw Drake as his brother. However, some wondered if he was still so embittered towards Dre and the Aftermath camp that he was now renouncing his Compton roots. And when he wasn't in attendance at Kendrick's Pop Out show that essentially unified the West Coast, people started asking questions.
My DMs and all on these blog sites and whatnot, talking about the West Coast ain't with you and you ain't this and you ain't that and you siding with this. As far as my relationship with Drake, Drake is my brother. My loyalty is what mother is loyal to me. Don't put my name in unless you hear me say it. Anybody that know me know.
I understand that, right? Shout out Hip Hop Madness. You understand me? Make sure y'all subscribe. I'm gonna have the video in the description if you want to watch it. Just, you know, without no interruptions or whatever have you. And this, that, and the third. Right now, the game. You know, you didn't side it with the opposing team. Wasn't good. right? Now just imagine if you would have like, so I could understand you being frustrated like about not being, and you had a point about the Super Bowl, right? About Eminem being from Detroit and 50 being from New York. What the fuck is they doing at our Super Bowl? You understand me? I like them, but go ahead and go where y'all shit at, man. Wait till y'all get a Super Bowl and y'all do it over there, man. I would have rather have had the game, but if the game would have just held off with some of his frustrations, right? And maybe like, I don't know, bro, like figured out how to channel that energy a little bit better, maybe he would have been. And I ain't gonna lie, because a lot of people tried to put that to Dot, like, oh, Dot just didn't want him. I'm sure Dot too, but I'm sure Dre, I mean, they tried to contribute him attribute the game not being at Kendrick's pop out to Dr. Dre. They tried to say, oh, Dre really would, you know, and I'm like, it was both of them. Especially after hearing this rundown, you didn't talk about you didn't roll past a nigga in a Range Rover when they was broke and trying to remember a nigga when trying to make a nigga have flashbacks of being down bad, right? You didn't diss the nigga on the song. You side with the ops. You just making shit decisions that don't benefit you being from the left coast. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You being from over here, the decisions you was making don't benefit you and they don't look good. And it seemed like it was some hater shit, some jealous shit, like, you know, and I ain't gonna lie, initially came off like, okay, he frustrated, so he taking his frustrations for Dre out on people that, but it's like you, I don't know, like, I don't know why you was doing that, gang. I don't know, bro. You feel me? But I definitely can't knock your accolades or whatever, right? And what you did for the West, but it just like, it's crazy that you decided to like, you know, make the decisions you made, bro. Like, and it's a trip. Like, you first, you know what I'm saying? Even with the 50 shit, like, for you to decide, and I understand I want to be a nigga underling or, but it's a time and a place, and you can't, don't jump the gun. You feel me? And just be a little, you know, Tony Yayo, they had that little clip of Tony Yayo in there. Tony Yayo is one nigga who knows how to not outshine the master. He know how to play his fucking position. He not overstepping his boundaries. But I ain't gonna lie, it do come across as, with all that being said, it come across as like, look at this nigga. You know what I'm saying? But you can't, of course a nigga gonna say, niggas be saying like, quick to say that about a nigga, but it's like, what, he being loyal to his mans, and he, you feel me, he on some upstanding shit, but he do always be throwing a little, like, it's like, I understand you being loyal, but why you gotta feel like you gotta say certain shit? And, you know, certain shit that I seen Tony Yayo say, I didn't see him just get away with saying hella little slick shit. The game don't really be tripping on Tony Yayo and whatever, and, you know, but, yeah, man, y'all let me know what y'all think, man.